and we'll get going. And as always, if you guys are in your office or if you're able to get off mute, please feel free to stop me with any questions that you might have. You do not have to wait till the end, and we'll get started. So this is our week 2 of our CTE Megatrends training. And I just wanted to do a quick recap because I feel like everything's been going so fast. But for last week, what was the gist of what we were doing last week? And if you weren't on, this might be helpful as well. Number one, CTE enrollments are growing. That's across every state, across the country. And we can get helpful information about your districts, about the kinds of programs that they might be adding, about, maybe they have certain areas where they're not doing so well that they're going to be looking for a solution from state report cards or performance dashboards. A lot of your states call them report cards. And in last week's PowerPoint, you will find direct links to any of those types of sites or types of databases for your particular state. We can also get really helpful information from advancedcte.com, which we gave some examples, but again, that'll show you the current enrollment of all CTE concentrators, which are students who are taking 2 or more CTE courses throughout their career in your state, as well as some key initiatives or even key findings or really good things that maybe certain big districts are doing in your state. So definitely check out advancedcte.com for your state, as well as your state's Department of Education website for CTE. As we move forward this week, you're actually going to get direct links to your state DOE web pages that talk about certification in your state if you've never been there. But a lot of these resources that we're pulling from are coming from those websites. And overall, what do districts, CTE teachers, CTE department heads or directors want? They want to be able to increase the number of students who are CTE concentrators because that gives them more Perkins funding. But they also want to increase the number of students who are completing that career pathway because, again, that'll get them more money from their state. But it's also very, very well researched that greatly improves students' chances of making more money upon graduation, even graduation from college, and they're much more likely to get into college or to have a job out 6 months out of high school graduation. And how do we connect to this? Our products help students see that the career skills they're learning in all of those courses, they can actually see what those skills are and directly correlate them to things that they'll be able to talk about on their resumes when they're applying for jobs, when they're applying for college, with tools like PathBright, precision exams, as well as our breadth of content, which covers most career clusters. So that's just a quick recap of what we were doing last week. And if you remember, we did have an action item if anyone had the chance to actually talk to a CTE director about how they're growing enrollments or how they're planning to do that. Last week for me in New England was about probably the most beautiful week of foliage that we'll have up here. It was also the week of apple cider donuts, which is a huge thing up here. I don't know if that's a huge thing anywhere else. But if anyone had the chance to do that action item or to talk to CTE directors about this, please feel free to get off mute and tell us. Or you can write anything in the chat. Was anyone able to talk to a CTE director last week? I know a lot of you are talking to them all the time, but was anyone able to talk about CTE enrollments with a director? I'm just going to give a few seconds to see if anyone did. Okay, and that's completely fine if you didn't get the chance to do that. Feel free to keep that action item kind of on your list if it's something that you want to do. And then, it's really helpful to see how that conversation went. I'd love to hear how it goes, if you need any other tools at that district, or even to go over that with your managers and one-on-ones to see how that conversation went. In last week's PowerPoint, there was a list of questions that you'd be able to use to help work through that conversation, as well as a spreadsheet that actually lists a whole bunch of CTE directors so you can get in contact with them. Okay, so this week we're talking about certification, which all of you know is a huge topic in CTE. And we learned last week that in a lot of states, districts, part of their district report cards or their performance reporting is not just the number of students who are graduating, but how many students are getting industry certifications can also help rank those schools. So We're going to start by what the heck are industry certifications? When we say an industry certification, what do we really mean by that? And it's not just a title that anyone can get, right? You know, we can say like, I'm a certified hottie or whatever you are. I'm a certified whatever. It's not a certificate of completion or attendance, right? It's not, you know, kind of just you're a superstar, good job. It's not a pat on the back. It's something that's recognized by the industry. So it means that it's a document that is proving that this person has the knowledge and or skills that businesses really want to see when they have applicants apply to their company. And it's proven knowledge. So a lot of times students, mostly these certifications, they'll take a test, right? It'll be multiple choice, something that you would be able to grade automatically with a Scantron or something like that. And they're proving that they have knowledge in that area. But some of the certifications that our students are getting are also proving their skills, right? In a lot of the health science certifications, they not just have to pass a test, but they also have to have a proof of a certain number of hours that they've spent doing particular skills. If you think about cosmetology as well, they have to have a certain number of hours doing things with clients. Same thing with dental assisting. And they also might have portions of the test where they're in person and they're actually practicing procedures. And you'll see, you know, for instance, the national organization, the Student Organization for Health Science, HOSA, that's the competitive events that students will have. A lot of times those events are driven by the certification testing that students will ultimately have to take. So in those student organizations, they're doing a combination of multiple choice tests as well as hands-on skills judged by someone in person. So a lot of times those student organizations where students are actually competing, whether that's DECA, FBLA, or BPA in business, HOSA in health science, FFA in agri-science, or Skills USA in our trades, a lot of times those events are mimicking these certifications and how students will be able to ultimately get those. And these certifications directly relate to what students need to be able to do a job right? So certifications are something that you know, you would hang and frame on your wall. It's not something that you would just, you know, store away and say, yep, that was a good pat on the back, I can do this. So it's something that students really should value when they get them, and it's a big deal. So what are certification bodies? Now, I know you guys know of Certiport. Obviously, you see Certiport at your conferences all the time. You also probably see things like NCCER, which we'll talk about here, but I just wanted to go over a little bit about what certification bodies are. So certification body is the organization that's giving the test, right? And a lot of these certifications that we see in technology, so this could be in business courses, computer science courses, they're actually software companies like Adobe, QuickBooks, or Microsoft, and they're saying, we have a software product, and we think that it is so, you know, integral to modern business practices today that we're actually going to offer a certification for it, right? So this is a company, think about it, it would be like if we said, you know, our Century 21 accounting book is so integral to students learning accounting that we're going to have a certification in passing the Century 21 accounting, right? But that's what these companies do. And because they're so big, they kind of get away with it. But the fact is, a lot of employers are hoping that their students will be able to use Microsoft software or Adobe software or QuickBooks software once they get there, because that's something they're using every day. So certification bodies can be software companies, but most of them will be associations or foundations, right? And these are groups that are saying, you know, we exist to make sure that there are standards in place so that for our, you know, career field. And you'll see a lot of these. There's and because I'm sorry, because I'm in a little blue room here in my office, I don't have all my notes, but when you get these slides, I do have notes for what all of these are. But AMCA, which is, I think, the American Medical Certification Association, that's the one that does a lot of healthcare certifications, like, you know, LPN, if you're going to be a licensed nurse, as well as certified nursing assistant, as well as a lot of medical assisting ones, the AAPC. is for professional coders, so medical coders. The NATA is for your sports medicine. It's the National Association, it's the National Athletic Trainer Association. And then in computer science, we hear CompTIA all the time. And if you guys haven't talked to any computer science teachers or IT teachers about CompTIA, start doing that, because we see a lot of certifications. I know in Florida, they do a lot of certifications for CompTIA, where you'll get your PC repair, networking, and security certifications. We've also got organizations like NISHE, which is the National Consortium of Health Science Educators. And that's actually, a group of teachers specifically, not even just industry professionals, who have come up with national health science standards that they think that all students should be able to meet before they're going to go on to a higher education program. So in short, you do not have to know basically any of these acronyms. I do have them all listed here, but I just want to let you know that there are a lot of groups like that. And what we talked about at the sales meeting is, if you get a question in CTE and the teacher says, does this align to NATEF standards or to the EC Council standards or to the NAHB standards, right? Usually the answer is yes. And usually that correlation will be on the instructor companion site. So just know that as we're creating any of these textbooks, we know that students are getting certifications in these areas, and they're almost always aligned to these organizational standards that teachers expect. But then there's also certifications that come from companies like our partner, Precision Exams, right? And our competitor that you see a lot in construction areas, NCCER, as well as Certiport, which is a company that's owned by Pearson, right? And these are companies that solely exist to dole out certifications. That's why they exist. And they actually have to work with other companies. They have to work with industry to get standards from them. And then they're saying, we are so close to industry and we partner so well with organizations that are hiring today that we have, the technology basically and the ability to dole out these exams to students on a large scale, right? So in a lot of cases, companies like Certiport, which Certiport does host the Microsoft Office certifications as well, they go to organizations and they say, hey, have you thought about doing a certification exam in your product? We would love to host your exams, right? We have access to students. We have the technology to be able to put out these exams, grade them, and dole out certifications. Now, the other one that I want to just talk about is ICEV. If you guys have seen ICEV in your territory, you'll probably see them at conferences. They are a competitive CTE company that offers solely digital curriculum. It's basically videos and worksheets online. They made a lot of money in the 2017 Texas adoption, so they've really been going out to every single conference trying to sell their really kind of cheap CTE products. But they've also started creating their own certifications, and this is something that I'm glad we don't do as a company, because it's honestly kind of embarrassing. So they offer hundreds of certifications that are aligned to their digital worksheets and videos. And these kinds of certifications really don't have credit in the market. They're a lot more like badging, if you've ever heard of badging. And badging is something that we see in our mobile games all the time, right? So here's an example of Candy Crush. If you're playing Candy Crush, you get these little fun icons once you get to certain levels that now you are a real expert. You know everything about Candy Crush Saga. If you see customers thinking about ICEV certifications along with their curriculum, I mean, what it really is it's saying you are an expert at these videos and worksheets that ICEV put out. It isn't really aligned with industry. They're not partnering with organizations. So, that's something that you could have some talking points over Precision Exams, who is every day partnering with organizations at the local and national level to come up with their standards. They're getting organizations to actually back them and say these certifications matter. Certifications that like ICEV are putting out are not doing that. They're really only backed by ICEV themselves. Okay, so let me know if you have any questions about that. So now, what certifications do we care about? And I'm gonna quickly go over some of the certifications where, if you do hear them, you do not necessarily have to know the acronym, but I do want you to know that we have products that are aligned to it, and that in most cases are best sellers, right? So the certification that we hear about all the time, and it's actually grown exponentially in the last 5 years in high school, are the MOS certifications, or Microsoft Office Specialist. And, you know, this is a slide that we had from our training resources when we were introducing Microsoft Office 2019, but I think it's helpful. Microsoft Office certification, it's consistently the most popular CTE certification on almost every single state approved list for certifications. You will see MOS certification here. Definitely many business students are sitting for MOS certification, but a lot of times this is a course or an area that ag students will take this, or you know, even technical trade students, any student that's thinking about running a business or working in a business, this would be helpful for. So, yeah, and remember the number one skill, and we got this information from a partner of ours called, now I always want to say it wrong. I always want to say like gas lamp, but it's like burning lamp. I will get the name of the company for you, but we actually partner with a company within our technical skills and trades titles that is actually tracking all of the things that employers are looking for on job sites, whether it's monster.com or Google or any other place that they're posting jobs. And they track that the number one skill asked for across the entire world, so the US as well as Europe and everywhere else, that employers want is for their employees to have a proficiency with spreadsheets or Excel, right? And so our coverage for the Microsoft Office Specialist exam, students can get certified in Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint, as well as Access. And there's also an expert level in Word and Excel. And no matter what level that students are sitting for, our comprehensive individual applications books cover all of those standards. They're written to them. All of the SAM digital tasks that students are working on in their trainings and their projects are also aligned to MOS certification. And remember, we also have our Microsoft Office simulations, right? And I thought I had a slide there, but maybe I don't. And those simulations that are in both MindTap or SAM for Microsoft Office are actually mimicking the experience of this exam. So even though, you know, Pearson owns Certiport, which does these exams, they don't have practice simulations of the exam, and their My IT lab is not as robust in grading and the kinds of skills that students are covered on their projects either. So even though we don't own Certiport, we definitely have the best product to prepare students for Microsoft Office certification. I got an email recently too about one of the reps asking, Burning Glass, yes, thank you, Jody Miranda. Burning Glass is the company I was thinking of that tracks all of the job skills. Thank you very much. I was talking to a rep recently, and they were at a conference, and Microsoft Office Academy and Certiport were presenting together, and she asked, you know, what is this Microsoft Office Academy thing? I think, Brian, you know that well, as some other states that have adopted it. Microsoft Office Academy is a product that Microsoft itself has put out to prepare students for certification. And what it basically is an online PDF that is it's like a user manual to Microsoft Office, and they might have some videos. It's nothing like our pedagogy of our books, which are explaining to students why these skills are important for their job or for school or for their personal life. They don't have as many projects that we have, and they don't have anything that's automatically graded within a simulation or a project like our product. So whether it's Pearson or in Certiport or even Microsoft Office training materials themselves, you can be assured that our products work the best for Microsoft Office certification. So now I want to talk about healthcare. There's lots of certifications in the healthcare fields. And the actual most popular one that students are getting is the CNA, or the Certified Nursing Assistant. Now, there are a few high school programs that are kind of preparing students to become a licensed nurse. We don't have any product that is meant for a full nursing program, and that's okay, because most of our high school students are going to be going for the Certified Nursing Assistant. This is a title that is a really amazing book that I don't think we sell enough because we don't know as much about it. But this textbook, the Acello Hegner book, is actually going to have a brand new edition next June. And it has a full MindTap with simulation certification prep. But the wonderful thing about this book is that if you're going to be a certified nursing assistant, the standards in your state are different depending on what state you're in. So if you're trying to get that certification in Texas, you might have to do a few extra procedures that you wouldn't have to do if you were trying to get it in New Jersey, right? But within the instructor manual, which is online for this book, the authors do a really good job of explaining how they have ensured that they have put all of the procedures in this book that you would need for your certification, no matter what state you're in. So if you're taking the certified nursing assistant exam in Pennsylvania and you use this nursing assistant book, you're probably going to learn 10 to 20 procedures that actually are not on that exam, but they are aligned to skills that certified nursing assistants need. But you can be assured that it's going to cover those skills. So do we have correlations to every single state? We do not, but be assured that this content is enough to cover that certification within your state. The second most popular certifications that we find in healthcare are medical assisting. And we have amazing products in medical assisting. I know a lot of you have emailed me about the new, now this is MOSS, M-O-S-S simulations, medical office software simulation, that are in these mind taps. But for medical assisting, if you're not sure, I just went to a doctor's appointment, a checkup recently. And the first medical assistant you see is the person who's in the window and they give you a clipboard, right? And they check for your insurance and they're the person who's scheduling for you. That's front office. And so when you're taking a medical assistant exam, there's two different kinds. There's an administrative medical assistant or the front office assistant. So that's the person who's at the desk, who's scheduling your calls. They also, are going to check for insurance and things like that. They're the ones who are working with this software that we have great simulations of in these books now. But you also can sit for a clinical medical assistant, which is the person who then calls your name, takes you in the back, weighs you. They have a little computer that they're typing in, right? That they ask you questions about how often do you exercise and things like that. And again, they're still working with that same software, which we have these great simulations for in these products. But students can get certified in either or both. And the two books that we have for medical assisting, both Lind and Bleasy, are completely comprehensive. So they're covering both of these certifications, whether you're going to be front or back office. But there are some courses where, we're really only focusing on clinical medical assisting, the back office, or we're really only focusing on administrative medical assisting. And we do have two books that are specific just to that program. So it's basically covering half of the information that you get in our comprehensive books. Now, the other one I really want you to think about is the athletic trainer certification. This is from the certification body, the National Athletic Trainers Association. And why I want you to think about sports medicine is because we're really the only publisher who has sports medicine books in South Carolina. I know they are obsessed with these books. They use our, I believe our France book for their first course and then our Clover book for their second course. But we sell, these two sports medicine books are about number 7 and 8 of our all-time sales in CTE. And it's because we don't really have competitors in this area, right? And we had a brand new edition come out last January of our France book with full mind tap. It never had mind tap before. And really, the difference between these two books, it's slightly different pedagogy. They really are covering, for the most part, a lot of the same things. So this is one of those areas where if you have a sports medicine customer, sample them both. And they very well might want to buy one for an intro course and one for an advanced course if they want, because we do see that in South Carolina. So think about that, and we do have the correlation to this exam on both of the companion sites for that. The other one I want you to think about, which we don't think about that often, is the CDA, or the Certified Dental Assistant. We do have a comprehensive dental assisting book by Finney Halstead. And the amazing thing about this, and all of these healthcare books, they're going to have simulations, they're going to have videos, they're going to have really interactive digital as well as certification prep. In dental assisting, you actually have a tray simulation where you're practicing setting up the tray with all of those fun and scary tools that our dentists have, right? And that's a key skill that they have to do in their certification. So we're the only one company that offers a tray setup simulation. I'm going to talk about architecture and construction. So the #1 book that we sell the most of in the trades is our welding textbook. And that's because you're going to find welding programs across multiple career clusters. They're obviously in architecture and construction. Students also take welding when they're in agri-science programs, and welding is also a key course in manufacturing programs. And our Jeffis welding textbook is going to have a new edition this January, so that's huge. There are welding simulations, which I have some slides that I'll go over as well. But that book is perfectly aligned to the AWS, or the American Welding Society's certifications. Those certifications are called, there's two of them. They're called CENSE, C-E-N-S-E, and there's a level 1 as well as a level 2. Our book covers all the skills for both levels, so students can get both certifications, and those correlations are on the companion site. Now I want to highlight briefly our Residential Construction for Academy series. Did anyone know that our RCA series are aligned to certifications, that they're the only textbooks that are available for the Home Builder Institute certifications? Now, this is your competitor where you'll see NCCER, which I'm sure you've seen them at your conferences. A lot of times they're doing professional development for construction teachers as well. We have the Residential Construction Academy series. We have brand new editions for the 3 most popular books: your Basic Principles of Construction, which is the first course, and then House Wiring and Carpentry. There are other textbooks in the series for HVAC, for masonry, for building maintenance, and some other areas. But all of these books are aligned to certifications that the Home Builders Institute actually puts out for both teachers and students. So teachers get certified as Home Builder Institute educators, but students also get certifications from the National Association of Home Builders, which is part of the Home Builders Institute. So, we don't, I think, use this enough, that our books were written with the Home Builders Institute for, those skills, which this is a very prominent name in the field, and they fully align to these certifications that they offer. So next time you talk about Residential Construction Academy, make sure you're talking about certification. And Gwen, I think it was, so I know that Andrea Neff and then Gwen were trying to work with your schools too. So for instance, in Florida, NCCER is huge, right?
Yes.
And it's on the state list, but maybe you can give people a kind of example of what's happening within your school. So I know in Andrea's school, they're using NCCER, but they're interested in offering more certifications. So they were looking at the Residential Construction Academy series. Is that right? Do you have anything?
Correct. They're just looking for an alternative. They're not really thrilled with the NCER certifications and the way they're laid out. So they're looking for an alternative certification company, and then something that's aligned to that, certification. So HBI fills that void, and our products do align well with HBI. Our only glitch is that they need to be on the CAPE list for funding, and apparently HBI is, but only for the second level of certification. So the higher level, the more advanced level. So, but yes, they're looking, and they want products that are aligned to HBI. So
awesome. Yeah. And that's what I'm gonna give you guys a slide where you'll have your link to your, and most of you probably already know this, but you might not, that almost every state has an approved list of certifications, right, that they want their students to get. And even though we partner with the Home Builders Institute, or we partner with Precision Exams, it's their job, right, to get their certifications on these state lists. But I know, for example, in Florida with Precision Exams, they're working really hard to get that approved on the CAPE list, but we can help by offering pilots, for our products with those certifications. And so we're actually working towards, with the product team, of having an even closer, we have some conversations coming up of a closer partnership with the Home Builders Institute, to be able to see how can we work together to make sure that your certifications are on these approved lists, and it makes us a lot easier to sell. So that the impetus, to do that is really on the certification body, but we can help, just because, I think in Pennsylvania, maybe Precision Exams is not on a state list. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. But we can try to get closer to doing that by offering pilots with those certifications. and then basically make the schools fall in. I'm correct. Okay, thanks, Bern. So for instance, in Pennsylvania, precision exams is not on the state list, and I think they also love NCCER. In Bern, have you also had adoptions of Residential Construction Academy? I believe you have. Yes, she has. So, you know, a lot of times our books are so great and they really are aligned to industry standards that once teachers hear about them and they're using something like NCCER, which is really ingrained in the state and has been on the state list for a long time, you know, the way to get on the state list and to help that is to have schools asking for it, right? So if they fall in love with our content and they want to use that, they can request that from the state. But also with like precision exams or these HBI certifications, if they want to test it out, and you know, maybe at the end of that, if they like it, they'll say that they'll, you know, ask the state about it. We can try to host those too. So if you know, a school comes back and they say, I'm not interested in that certification because it's not on the state list, let's not stop the conversation there, is what I'm trying to get at. Now, the other one I want you guys to think about, this is a book that you're probably not thinking about a lot, but in the manufacturing career cluster, NIMS, or the National, oh God, what is this? I have the acronym on the notes for this slide. Oh, the National Institute of Machining. They have certifications, and that's the main certification that manufacturing students are getting besides welding. We have the book that is approved by NIMS. So the NIMS, the certification body, has said, Cengage's Hoffman book is the book that we want you to use. And it's our precision machining technology book, which had a new edition come out last January. If you have any manufacturing programs, look at your tech high school websites. If they say that they are doing anything in the manufacturing career cluster, send them a review copy of this book or a Vital Source sample or the MindTap sample, because they will buy it. So we have lots of opportunity for that book. So within those areas, I wanted to just highlight some of the things that you'll find in these MindTaps that apply towards certification. And you might know this already, but we actually have these slides in a CTE presentation loop that you can use at any of your CTE conferences. So if that's something that you want, I'll definitely send you the link to that CTE presentation loop. It's also in Mingle under any of our 9 to 12 CTE disciplines. Just type in loop and you'll find it. But within that welding book, the Jeffis welding book, which is the #1 bestseller for welding and aligns to the American Welding Society certifications, Sense Level 1 and 2. This is a book that in MindTap, we actually have welding simulations. And this is a conversation I love to have, because you can talk to a welding teacher and you can say, have you ever thought of having welding simulations in your class? And they'll look at you like you're nuts, right? Like, how can you practice welding on a computer? It's something you have to feel, right? You have to experience, you need muscle memory. It's something you have to do in the shop. And you say, yes, of course, I understand that. But what about simulations that are preparing students for the weld to make sure that they're doing it correctly and safely, and practice for them to analyze completed welds that you might never be able to complete in class, right? And that's exactly what this simulation does. So unlike our other simulations, instead of, you know, practicing the actual skill, this simulation is helping students prepare for the skill and to analyze the skill after they've completed it. So they're 3-part modules. In the first one, students actually practice reading and understanding technical drawings with welding blueprints. You can't do a weld if you don't understand what the weld is supposed to be, right, that you're trying to make. Then they actually have this fun kind of interactive experience in a shop where they're setting up their equipment and they're choosing the equipment that they would need to make a safe weld, depending on what that weld is that they're trying to do, right? So they'd have to take knowledge that they've been learning in their textbook about, okay, if I'm going to do a plasma arc weld, these are the things I'm going to need to do it, right? And then the third part of that simulation is that they're actually looking at completed 3D models of completed welds. And you can spin these, you know, 360 degrees. You can zoom in on them, and you're reporting on the quality of that. So sometimes there will be, you know, something wasn't done so well, and students need to be able to look at their completed work and be able to tell if it's safe and if it was done correctly. So those are the things that students are doing in these simulations. And I wanted to take time to explain that, because a lot of times if you say we have welding simulations, the teacher looks at you and like, what, how's that going to help me? Right? But as soon as you explain what they're actually doing, it's a huge asset to their class. And remember, in all of these technical courses, teachers are required to have shop time as well as class time. So a lot of times these guys who are just ready to get students hands-on and practice their muscle memory, they're saying, what are we trying to do? You know, what do I have to do in this class time? What can I make students do? So these simulations are a great skill. And thank you, Bern. You also mentioned that one of your teachers for that manufacturing, for the precision machining, also uses the NIMS Machining Level 1 study guide. Perfect. That is a great supplement to the Hoffman book, and you can definitely sell those together. Now, the other thing I want to add here, because we're going to talk about it with automotive as well, welding also includes the SP2 Safety, Environmental, and Soft Skills trainings. Has anyone seen or played with SP2 in their mind taps? Because you'll see this in agri-science, in all of your technical trades books for soft skills. But we have safety and environmental trainings in welding and automotive. And this is a well-known company in both the welding and automotive industries that have created industry-specific safety trainings. And a lot of employers actually won't let their employees start until they have this SP2 training, right? And the great thing about this training is that a lot of times when you have students who are welding or working on cars in a high school, you are required to have some kind of safety training before you let them start using those tools, right? You can't just give a kid a blowtorch and think that you're going to be safe. So for legal purposes, as well as safety purposes, schools are required to have some kind of safety training. And this is one that's backed by the industry and is really well known. Normally, schools would have to pay like $500 per location to have their students access these, but they're completely in our mind tabs for free with our partnership with SP2. Okay, we'll get moving. I want to be able to get live in these mind tabs too for you. Okay, so I also want to highlight our HVAC training simulations. And I'm sorry, did my slide when I was talking about these, I didn't even put HVAC on here. Well, for HVAC excellence, oh no, it's down here, sorry. Again, this is the best seller in the country for any HVAC, heating, ventilation, and AC program in the country. It used to always just be called Whitman. Now you can see there's a ton of authors on it, but it's refrigeration and air conditioning technology. There is a brand new edition coming out in January. So you guys should be excited because in the technical trades, you've got a brand new edition of HVAC, a brand new edition of welding, your two best sellers. And then remember, you also have a brand new edition in June of your nursing book coming out this year. But within the HVAC simulations, these simulations have won many awards. Students are practicing with industry tools. They have these great troubleshooting charts. So it says, well, let's check this. If it looks like this, do this. If not, go here. In these kind of troubleshooting charts, I've had students who have actually graduated and are HVAC technicians now who said that that was a lifesaver and that they wish that they had access to that forever because it's so useful when they're actually on the job. But the wonderful thing about these simulations, not only are students working on hundreds of different faults that could be working with multiple kinds of HVAC equipment, but it actually has an opt-in Carrier, the #1 HVAC company, has actually said these simulations are so valuable that we want to have access to students who are doing really good on these simulations because we want to hire them. So there's actually an opt-in that our students could do once they're 18 that would send their scores on the simulation directly to Carrier for them to get a job. So I don't know of any other simulations in the industry that do this, that have that direct line to a #1 employer, but our HVAC simulations do. So definitely be talking about those to any of your customers as you're selling in your new HVAC book. Now I'm going to move a little bit faster now because I've been mumbling a little bit, but in information technology, I really want to highlight the CompTIA certifications. There are 3 main ones. There are other ones that I know in Florida. Andrea Neff has sold for the CompTIA cloud computing certification. There's a Linux certification. A lot of those we don't see as often, but you will see in most IT programs, they're going for this A+ certification, which is PC repair. And there's 2 tests. So you're basically learning, how do I fix a computer, the actual computer? If I'm, working with microchips and I take the back off of the computer and I'm actually fixing that machine. But also, how do I do the IT support with software, which is like our help desk, right? If we have issues, we get the blue screen of death. Then our IT department, you ship it in, and they're going to work on your software or they're going to work on your hardware. So many students are taking these certifications in both hardware and software. Our textbook covers both certifications. It's the CompTIA A+ Guide to IT Technical Support. This just came out last February and is updated to the newest standards. This will be the up-to-date book for the next 3 years because that certification is updated every 3 years. I'll show you the amazing simulations that we have that are aligned to certification in this course as well. But remember, if the school is teaching just hardware or just software, there are splits for this book as well. And you'll find them in Mingle under hardware. It'll say hardware/software. So if they need only half of this book because they're just taking one certification, we have that option and we have MindTap for that. But most schools will use the comprehensive IT technical support book. The next most common CompTIA certification that you'll find is Network Plus. And these are students working with networking skills, right? So how is my computer connecting to other machines and speaking to those? And so again, that book is very, very well known, well loved, completely aligned to CompTIA certification. I believe there's actually charts within these books that show you every single page that is aligned to those CompTIA tasks. And there's icons in the book highlighting that, as well as practice tests. The third one I want you to think about is Security Plus. And this is for, cybersecurity. It's actually connected to networking, protecting your company from making sure that you're not getting hackers and that no one's attacking you with viruses through your network, right? And so if you're talking to an IT teacher, often you get them asking you about A+ because the Andrews book has been the #1 on the market for a long time. Even if you don't think they have that course, always, always, always ask them about Network Plus and Security Plus, because very often they might have been saying, you know what, I really wanted to add that course. We're expanding our IT curriculum. Remember, in growing enrollments, STEM and IT are growing faster than anywhere else. I know even in Pennsylvania, just because I used to live there, I've been hearing of a lot of schools adding IT labs that they never had before. So always, always ask when you're talking about IT technical support, are you also thinking about a Network Plus or a Security Plus program? Because they very well might be, and they might not even know that we have a very similar pedagogy to the book that they love for those. Now, all 3 of those certifications inside the MindTap, you're going to find certification practice tests, but you're also going to find both simulated and virtual machine labs. And I don't know if you guys have ever opened these up, but they are, I think, I'm brave enough to say that I think that even beyond the HVAC, these virtual machine labs to me are the coolest assignments that we have in MindTap. And why is because on the right, you'll see those are simulations. This came from a product called Lab Connection that we had for a long time. Every single skill is connected to CompTIA certification, but it's a simulation, right? You can see you're working on a motherboard there and you're practicing adding connectors to the motherboard, and it will actually, you can click show me and it will show you what you're supposed to do, but it's a simulation. You're not, really working on a real computer. But these virtual machine labs in the screen in the center, you are working on real machines. So in these labs, you are practicing fixing software, you are practicing ethical hacking, you're practicing fighting off viruses or removing a virus from an infected computer with real machines. So this is actually using the student's internet connection, and they can turn on, sometimes you're working on 6 different computers remotely. So if you've ever had, your computer's going crazy, maybe your mouse is moving and you have no control over it, and you email the help desk, and they have that fun piece of software that connects our computer to theirs, and then all of a sudden they start taking over your computer, right? Have you guys ever done that with their help desk? That's what this is. So a student is actually taking over a machine that exists out there, and they're fixing it. And the wonderful thing about these simulations is in a lot of cases, students would never be able to do this in high school because they're always in danger of infecting their real machines, right? Or we only have a limited number of machines. We can't just give them all viruses and hope that our students can fix them. So this is completely safe. It will not connect to any of their machines in their network or their lab, but students can practice these skills they need for certification in kind of the most real world experience that you can have. Okay, I keep saying I'm gonna go fast, but I really am here. Automotive. I think all of you guys know in your automotive programs that they align to certification, and it's the ACE certification, the Automotive Service Excellence. That organization, the exams are called NATEF. And if you ever have questions, do your textbooks align to NATEF standards? Yes, 100%. That's why we write them. And there are 3 different kinds of certifications that you're going to be asked about. And again, if you have a school asking about one of these books, ask them, do you also have collision repair? Do you also have a comprehensive ASE program? Do you also have maintenance and light repair? Because they very well may just be another teacher and they'll say, yeah, Fred over here is teaching that. Why don't we talk to him? But the most common one that you'll find is this MLR certification. It's maintenance and light repair. Our Thompson book was new just a little bit over a year ago. Full certification prep, simulations, tons of assets in these mind taps. And that's really like the foundational ACE certification that you can get. So that's why a lot of high schools do it, right? You can actually get it within a year rather than having to work students through tons of automotive courses. So that should be your most popular. The next one that you'll find is if there's a collision repair and refinishing. These are the guys who are learning how to fix beat up cars, right? How to buff out scratches, how to replace a new headlight, how to replace glass, things like that. And there are actually 4 tests within the collision and repair and refinishing. Our Thomas book prepares you for all of them. And then the ones that you'll also see, which we see many times, is if students are getting the ACE certification in auto repair. So this is more if you're just going to work in a shop to fix things that are wrong with the car. It's not necessarily because you got in a crash, right? But you've got to fix the suspension or the brakes or things like that. There's actually 8 tests that students take to get fully certified. Both of these books, the Gillis, Automotive Service Inspection and Repair, as well as the Airjavik, prepare students for all of those certifications. So again, these books have full correlations. They tell you when they have practice tests within every single chapter. They have practice complete tests within MindTap. They're going to get you set for those certifications. The one other thing I want to let you guys know too, as of last year, we can actually sell vouchers for ACE certifications, which means these schools have to buy those somewhere, right? And if you're smart, you get them through some kind of other seller to get a discount, because if you get them from ACE directly, they're going to be the most expensive. I know that's weird, but that's how these certifications work. We actually have ISBNs to sell those with them. And when you look at the bundles in Mingle for the book and MindTap, you'll see bundles for the book MindTap plus an ACE certification voucher. So always put that on your quote. It's going to just make more money for you, and it's something that the teachers are going to have to buy anyway. So within the simulations that are aligned to certification inside MindTap for automotive, you've probably seen these. They're called the automotive theory simulations, and very similar to HVAC, you're working with industry tools. There's simulations of many different vehicles that you're practicing and troubleshooting, common things that would be on certification. Again, with SP2 safety trainings, this is something that schools normally would purchase for $500 anyway. They get it free in MindTap, and students will get that certification through MindTap. What happens is the students work through the module, they pass it, and then there's an SP2 app in that MindTap, and when teachers open it, as students complete the certification, their name should appear, and they can click their name to print out their certification for them. Okay. So learning about certification in your state, those are the main areas that you're going to think about industry certification, right? So it was health science, Microsoft Office, information technology, architecture and construction, and automotive, okay? And manufacturing with our NIMS certification. Those are the things you're going to hear about the most. How do we do a trial for these auto areas? So if you want to do a trial, it's all through MindTap. So Maxine, you would just set them up with a MindTap trial and NGL Sync like you would for anyone else. They'll have access to the SP2 certification through that. They'll have access to the simulations and everything else that's with that. For ACE certification, that's something that you cannot work in automotive if you don't have that certification. So we don't do pilots for that. I mean, that's going to be on every single state list. So you don't have to worry about that for automotive. Now, on this slide, I want you to come in here and click on your state, because this is going to send you directly to a link to any kind of industry recognized credential information for your state. Most states will have approved lists, and you should be able to find those here. If you have any questions about that, let me know and we can look a little bit more into your state. But the great thing about this, if you pull out the approved certifications in your state, you're going to see the ones that we just went over. Those are going to be on almost every single state list. You see other certifications and you want to know if we have products that align to them, shoot me an email and we'll be able to show you what aligns, okay? Now, just a quick update on precision exams, which we had our training last January. I think if you weren't here then because you're new, or if you just want a refresher on precision exams because you're thinking about certification, I really recommend that you go to that training. I'll put that in the follow-up email as well. It was an hour-long training on precision exams, but just as a reminder, right, they have over 180 industry-aligned certifications. So what I want you to think about with precision exams specifically for this week is we talked about the areas that have, industry certifications and that sell very well. What about all the areas that don't, right? If you're in business, most students, they might be getting a QuickBooks certification. They're probably getting a Microsoft Office certification. But what else? What are they getting in business management, in marketing, right? What are they getting in sports and entertainment marketing? There's nothing. What about your agri-science students? There's not very much for them out there either, right? So let's think about the areas where they might not already be taking a certification, number one, because precision exams has one for them. But even those areas where students are taking a certification, when do they take these tests? They take them at the very end of their program, right? And we're hoping that students will stay in the first course and the second course and the third course to get to that point, but most students don't, right? Most students are not completing their career pathway. So how can we get them a certification from their first course? You can do that with precision exams. Because precision exams are course-aligned certifications, students are getting a certification with every course they take, not just as their capstone at the very end of the program, right? And always remember that precision exams give students and teachers really helpful reporting. When your students take an ACE certification or the HVAC excellence certification or a CompTIA certification, the only thing the teachers get back is whether they passed or not, right? And if all of your students fail, how do you have any information on what you could improve in your program to give students a better shot? You don't. The only information you have is that they failed. With precision exams, teachers get knowledge standard-based reporting where they see on each main standard how every single student did and how those students did as compared to the rest of the students in their state. So it quickly shows you where you can go to improve your course. And so I just wanted to remind you guys, precision exam certifications do not replace other certifications that are so entrenched in industry, right? Like the ACE certifications, CompTIA, MOS. It's not meant to replace those, but they are really good indicators of those certifications. So focus on the areas first and foremost that do not have industry certifications that students can take. But then for the areas that do, talk about them as indicators for that end of program assessment. And so just to highlight again, the areas that don't really have that many industry certifications: agri-science, business, marketing, and finance. And even students who are not in CTE, right? Remember, these schools get ranked on how many of their students are getting industry certifications. That isn't always just CTE students. That could be anybody. And a lot of these exams, especially the 21st century success skills and financial literacy, are really valuable to any student, whether you're in CTE or not. But also areas like criminal justice and early childhood education. Precision Exams has certifications for courses of all of those levels. So we only have 5 minutes left, and I know that we did some kind of, highlights of simulations, but I wanted to just jump in very, very quickly into the DHO Mind Tap for you, and that's because it is the foundation course to all of the certification areas in healthcare. So when you think about the dental assisting certification or the medical assisting certification, certified nursing assistant, whenever you're in any of those courses, you're going to start with DHO. You're starting with this course. And so I just wanted to highlight some of the main things that you can talk about when you're in this Mind Tap. So while students are in here, first and foremost, we talked about NISHE very quickly, which is the National Consortium for Health Science Educators. They have a certification that's called the National Health Science Assessment. And this is basically hundreds of health science teachers, high school teachers in the US said these are skills that students should graduate with if they're in any health science program. And this is basically saying these are skills that means that they'll be successful when they move on to secondary education, or they should be successful if they just start in a healthcare career right out off the bat. And DHO aligns to that assessment. Precision Exams is the certification body that hosts that assessment. And we actually built a primer. This was just about a year ago. We built a study primer for that test at the very top of the DHO course. It's powered by the CNow app. And when you come in here, it's going to have practice questions for that assessment. But what I wanted to show you is that if you submit this assessment, I believe, I might be doing this wrong, but it actually will link directly when you check your work to the ebook to be able to get there. And I will send you a screenshot of what this looks like because I thought you just clicked check your work and it came up in the feedback. But I know that that's part of what we did within this primer was that if students got something wrong, oh, here it is. So if I got something wrong in this primer, I can click the little X that says that it's wrong. It's going to give me a little bit of feedback, and then I can actually go to that section of the ebook in DHO and read about it. So it's direct remediation for this practice assessment that many, many of your states are using, okay? So that's the certification piece. The other things that you'll find in here are learning lab simulations, which I'm happy to talk about more later if you have any questions about those. And you'll always find those in the apply yourself portion of the course. But the learning labs are always 3 parts. You start with a pre-test. You're interacting with video-based simulation. So you're on the job, you're making decisions, you're doing other practice study tools, and then you take a post-test. They're not easy to demo because they take about 20 minutes to complete. You have to complete the pre-test. But I want to show you at the very top of the course, it's also in chapter 4, the Career Exploration Learning Lab is amazing. And this is what I would demo every time or just talk about if you're talking to someone at a conference. But within this simulation, there's an interactive story. It's multiple parts, about 10 parts. And it's always first person point of view. So you see these doctors looking over you. You are actually put in the place of a high school health student who gets in a car accident, leaving a party, and you actually interact with over like 30 different healthcare careers, from the EMTs who pick you up at the scene, to the emergency room technicians who are checking you out when you get to the hospital, to the surgeons who actually complete surgery on you, to the nurses who take care of you, to the physical therapists that you work with as you're in your recovery. You actually get the experience of what all those jobs are and what they do and how these jobs communicate with each other from the view of a patient. So this is completely awesome. It's great for any health science program. But in addition, you also have a search tool to be able to learn about these careers. And it will actually help you explore these careers. It asks you questions to decide which one might be a better career for you, right? And then you can filter by how many years of schooling it takes, what the expected salary range is. And you can take a look at one of these careers, and there's a video for over 20 of them of an actual person in that career telling you what that job's about. So just this career exploration lab in itself is so cool and will sell the whole product. But I just wanted to highlight that for you, that both of these 2 things are at the very top of the learning path, the National Health Science Assessment as well as the Career Learning Lab. Okay, So I know we're out of time. Feel free to leave if you have to. This will be recorded, but I'm just going to let you know that in here we have a couple slides on the DHO book as well that can give you some quick talking points to talk about that, as well as the MindTap assets that we just showed you. But the action item for week 2, feel free to go back to week 1's action item and talk to a CTE director. We've got this list of CTE directors here as well. But the thing I'd love you to try to do this week is, number 1, contact a CTE director or teacher and ask them, what do they use to prepare their students for industry certification? And you could talk about any of these areas, right? If they're using NCCER, we know to mention our Home Builder Institute certifications, because as Byrne mentioned, and I think as Wen mentioned, in a lot of cases, people aren't so happy with NCCER. They don't know that there's an alternative, right? Or we can ask them, what are you doing for CompTIA certification? Did you know that we have these simulations in these textbooks? The other thing that you can try to do is contact a director or teacher and ask what sort of industry certifications are they offering for pathways that don't have these national certifications, right? So, okay, we talked about what you're doing in automotive and information technology. A lot of people are doing that. But what do you do for your ag students, for your business students, or your criminal justice students? And that conversation is going to lead you towards precision exams, right? Because they don't have many other options. So try doing one or two of those things. You can even roll up last week's action item into this one. We have the list of CTE directors by state. So if you haven't downloaded that and checked out some of those contacts, feel free to do so. And as always, thank you guys so much for the time. This will be recorded. I'll send up a follow-up email with this PowerPoint and some other helpful links. And I'm excited to see you guys next week. Have a great Halloween.
Happy.
Thanks. Bye, guys.
Bye.